Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
5, 4. Hello and welcome to Politically Speaking. My name is JC Coutts, filling in this week for David Sherman. And our guests this week, we have the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs for Ontario, Huron Bruce MPP Lisa Thompson is our guest. Hi, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm great. The sun is shining and March has arrived like a lamb, or in our case on our farm, like baby goats.
That's right. It is the season. I know my brother-in-law has been saying that they've been having some cattle come in. Same with goats. How's the goat scene going? Is it going well?
The kidding season. Actually, we just started. Our first set of twins arrived early this morning. So everybody's doing well, and let's hope the rest of the herd follows in line.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that's one of the things you did before you were officially an MPP, is you were general manager of the Ontario Dairy Goat Cooperative. And I mean, just in case anyone isn't fully familiar with Lisa's work, she was born in Wingham, lives now on a farm near Teeswater. Your husband, Dennis, I think that farm's been in his family for something like 120 years.
Yeah, actually 123 years this year.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, I often do see you sharing photos of when harvest time comes around, and I know that you're a big proponent of road safety because, of course, in this area we have the large agriculture vehicles are on the road, especially around harvest time, and as drivers we all need to be aware of that and know to give them their space.
That's a good message. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got a lot to cover today, and where are you today? Are you at Queen's Park? Is that your office or?
Well, actually, I was in Bruce County earlier today because the Ontario Jersey Association is hosting their tour and AGM in the Walkerton area. And then I flew south to Blythe, and I'm going to end up this evening in Goderich. So that's day to day in the riding.
It is. It's such a big area to cover here in Huron, Bruce. There's so much going on here. Let's get into it though. We have a lot to talk about. I know you've been super busy. In fact, just this week, I believe it was announced that there's $836,000 over the next 3 years that is going to be used to increase capacity of rural volunteers and organizations across the province. Your team announced this. I'm just wondering why it's so important that we invest in volunteers in rural areas.
Do you know what? Volunteers are the pulse, if you will, of our rural small town communities. And it's through the Ontario Association of Agricultural Societies, as well as the Rural Ontario Institute, that we'll be investing in leadership development, board governance skills, as well as financial management for our volunteers that first and foremost, work on our local fairs year in and year out. But once we start building capacity and increasing opportunities to learn about the skills to be an effective volunteer, I think those skills, if you will transcend outside of the traditional agricultural society and benefit our communities as a whole.
It's funny too that you're putting the focus on volunteers, because it's in talking to some of the mayors in our area, Trevor Bazinet in Goderich, talking to Luke Charbonneau up in Saugeen Shores, talking to Aaron Eldersley. I've asked all of them, what's the thing that makes your community so great? And they always say it's the strength of our volunteers. If we didn't have so many people that gave their time, we wouldn't be able to do half the things that we do in our communities.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And then it's important for people to realize I started my career after graduating from the University of Guelph working for OMAFRA as a rural community advisor. And it was my job to do exactly what ROI, the Rural Ontario Institute, and the Ontario Agricultural Societies are going to do. It's important to learn how to run a good meeting. It's important to understand that it's okay to have conflict, but you have to adjust how you deal with that conflict. And I think it's really important for volunteers in this day and age to understand they have a fiducial responsibility in terms of good management when it comes to the finances of our volunteer organizations. And so this was an opportunity for me to bring back perhaps traditional support, recognizing we need to continue to build strength within our volunteers and ideally attract and retain volunteers in our rural organizations as well.
And how soon will we start to see the funds from this implemented? Is this going to be right away?
Yeah, actually, through the Rural Ontario Institute, there's going to be webinars as well as in-person opportunities to enhance the training that they received online. And certainly, if people go to our website at ontario.ca or go to the website for the Ontario Association of Agricultural Societies or the Rural Ontario Institute's website, they'll find out the details that they need if they want to pursue opportunities to enhance their skill base.
All right. Perfect. Let's talk about agriculture in the classroom. I know that you're a big proponent of getting more knowledge about farming life, not just in the schools in this area here in Huron Bruce, but I mean all around the province. It's important that kids learn about this. I didn't grow up necessarily myself in a rural setting. I grew up in a small town, so now living in this area, a lot of this is all foreign and it's new to me. But if it had been imparted to me at an earlier age, maybe I'd have a bit of a better appreciation for it. So I'm just curious, what's being done currently to get agriculture into classrooms, and what would you like to see done maybe more in the future to get the programming up a little bit?
Do you know a colleague of mine from Eastern Ontario, Daryl Cramp, he put through a private members bill in the last session. So it would have been in about 2019, 2020, to really bring food literacy into the classroom. And when we talk about good quality food growing close to home, naturally hand in hand, we're going to talk about the amazing work that our local farmers do so that we can realize good quality food in the grocery store. And I think food literacy is so, so important because people need to know that, you don't need that pristine carrot to eat well. At our local fairs, sometimes there's a prize for the wackiest looking vegetable, and that vegetable still has the same, quality, content, and it tastes the same as well. And so I feel that in this day and age, when we're all trying to figure out how to stretch our dollars, our household dollars, people need to appreciate that if they buy fresh grown Ontario vegetables or fruit, as well as good quality sources of protein, and bring that quality product into the household to prepare, as opposed to eating in restaurants. Or that's a treat for us in our household, is to go out to a local restaurant and support them, which is also important. But my grandmother always said people need to learn how to eat out of their garden or out of their freezer. And that's why I'm so committed to agriculture in the classroom, so that people can appreciate what's involved in growing good quality food close to home. But taking it a step further, I love seeing some of the learning environments that we have in our high schools now locally, whether it's in Clinton or Walkerton, wherever, the opportunities to learn how to cook in our local high schools are second to none as well. Those culinary skills or skills are equally important.
Yeah, there's just so many I guess effects that by investing in this properly, you've got number one, as you mentioned, Lisa, the knowledge of eating good food and eating properly, because that's something that today with all the processed foods and everything, that's a whole other conversation right there.
That is,
but then there's the knowledge, there's the appreciation for it, and then there's also the spin-off of the jobs that come from it, because there's jobs in ag, and then there's jobs that spins off as well from the industry too.
You know what? You're spot on. Thank you, JC, for recognizing that, because that's a conversation that I could speak about for hours. Because, I feel it's important that people realize that when it comes to an amazing career, there's so many opportunities close to home as well. Once upon a time, people used to joke our biggest export was our young people into urban centers. But honest to goodness, when you take a look around Huron and Bruce alone, which I proudly describe as the breadbasket of Ontario, there's stunning jobs from, again, culinary opportunities in terms of working in restaurants through to marketing, being agronomists, understanding soil science, through to internationally marketing the crops that we grow. There's a whole gambit of jobs that are available to young people. And the foundation to really a strong agricultural industry and sector is skilled trades, because it doesn't matter whether you're working for Coutts Co-op or Huron Bay Co-op, Midwest Co-op. I guess I'm dating myself when I say Huron Bay, but Midwest Co-op, or one of our local granaries. People need to know how to work with their hands. And again, I think there's so many opportunities and good careers. And that's why our ministry at OMAFRA has also invested in a program called Find Your Future. And it's an initiative that absolutely is focused on identifying training paths, if you will, for the whole host of processing and agronomy opportunities that exist for young people. And I have to give a shout out to Agscape. Agscape is formerly known as Ontario Agri-Food Education, and it's an organization that's sponsored by provincial commodity organizations and agricultural businesses that support training teachers so that they have the confidence and the capacity to talk about amazing careers and the importance of the agri-food sector when it comes to recognizing what it means to support and buy local food produced close to home. So there's a lot going on, but there's always more to do. And that's what we're keeping our eye on.
And if anybody's interested, I'm just there is a website for Agscape. It is agscape.ca. So super easy to find. Lots of resources on there, and even a teacher ambassador program I'm seeing as well. So there is a lot, Lisa. Yes,
there is. Like Agscape hires teachers actually to prepare curriculum so that it's easy for teachers to pick up and put right into their teaching modules. We want to make it as easy as possible to give those teachers confidence to talk about the amazing things that grow in Ontario.
Well, I do know the one thing that Ontario does really well is they've been marketing themselves and their products really well to the world, to the rest of Canada. I'm just going to pitch it out there if you ever need it as an idea, because I've lived in Alberta and I've lived here in Huron County now. This is my second go. Our beef is better. So if you really want to get it at Edmonton and put a great big our beef's better than your beef up in the airport, I'm fully on board with that. It's true. My taste buds don't lie.
Yeah, the beef farmers in both Huron County and beef farmers are going to love you for that. But you know what the difference is? And I've seen it when I've gone on international trade missions. I've seen Australian beef right beside Ontario corn-fed beef. And honest to goodness, there you can see the difference between beef animals raised on grass and beef animals from Ontario that are corn-fed, because you can see that beautiful marbling through Ontario beef that makes it so tasty.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump a little bit here because you mentioned the trade mission, so we should talk about that because this has been something big for you. I know there's a very recent mission down to Mexico. There's been other missions to Southeast Asia, Vietnam. I'm just wondering, what's come of these missions and what's going to be, have any deals been signed that are going to benefit farmers in Ontario and from our area?
Yeah. The goal of our missions from an OMAFRA perspective or an OMAFRA lens is finding jurisdictions and companies that want to buy Ontario commodities and or food processed and manufactured here in Ontario, because it's adding value to our provincial GDP and our economy. And so when we went to Mexico recently, we represented the opportunities to buy Ontario grains and baked goods. And so the people participating in that trade mission to Mexico represented grain farmers, commodity traders, millers, as well as bakeries, and even a representative from both the Port of Hamilton and the Port of Colborne, so down in the Niagara area. And it was a strong message that we took there, because people, in some cases, want to buy Ontario grains for producing their own baked goods in Mexico, where others want to buy the baked good already manufactured so they can put it directly onto their shelves. And so we hosted in 6 short days over 100 business to business meetings, promoting our bakeries, promoting our commodities, and honest to goodness, the way they were joking around about it a little bit, but in all seriousness, they had great first dates, and now they're already on to their second date, where people are looking to do more business in Ontario. And then, there's the icing on the cake is when we can attract a business to actually set up shop and buy Ontario grains, mill them, and manufacture the product so that it can ship back to Mexico and around the world. Because the sweet spot about Ontario is Ontario has trade agreements with 50 jurisdictions worldwide. And so by establishing food manufacturing here in Ontario, not only are they providing good jobs locally, they're buying Ontario product, but they're utilizing Ontario's relationships to sell manufactured food, processed food, beverages from this province into other areas of the world. And it bodes well for us.
I'm just sorry, Lisa. I was just curious about those trade agreements that Ontario has. Now, are those would they be subjected to the new version of NAFTA, I guess I should say, or are these totally separate and this allows Ontario a little bit more flexibility?
Yeah, well, actually, we have a really good rapport, and it's through not only we have our tri-national agreements that over and above NAFTA, we have the CTTPT with our South Asian countries, and we have an agreement with our European partners as well. And we don't take them for granted. We want to make sure that we're positioning Ontario commodities as well as food and beverage products the best way possible, because we want our market share. And because, again, at the end of the day, it's all about finding more demand for what's growing and manufactured here in Ontario. So we're in a really good position. There's a spotlight shining on Ontario farmers. And I have to say, you mentioned you've been in Alberta before. It made me very happy last year when agriculture ministers from Western Canada actually conceded that, given the volume of product, be it grains, oilseeds, or protein, or milk, fill in the blank here, that gets grown and made available here in Ontario, our province has become the food and beverage manufacturing hub of all of Canada as well. And that bodes well.
Yeah, that's great news for our farmers in Ontario and at all levels. I know, because we have so many, we have still the small family farms up to the much larger scale operations, and as long as there's demand, whoever is involved, small or large, at least they've got an opportunity.
Yeah, it's amazing. And another example of a small success, we had 4 memorandums of understanding signed when we were in Japan and Vietnam last year. There's a great interest in Ontario growing ginseng. There's nothing like it worldwide, and I'm very proud of that. And just last week at the annual general meeting for Beef Farmers of Ontario, it was noted by Jim Clark from Corn-Fed Beef that it was because of relationships that were created during the trade mission in 2023 that there is a little delivery truck in the larger centers in Japan that is just absolute marketing, and it's just a gem promoting Ontario corn-fed beef. And it's those little wins along with the big ones that really can make a difference.
Speaking of beef, I should ask you about cattle production in Huron and Bruce. I think at one point And my mother-in-law told me this at one point. We were a huge dairy area. Now it seems to have shifted over the years. But cattle production, it seems like the numbers have been decreasing a little bit over the last few years. Do you have any comments on how to increase cattle production in this area, and particularly about like slaughter capacity for cattle and hogs in this
Yeah.
area?
Well, first things first, we need the processing capacity. And so as soon as I came into this chair and the honor of serving as Ontario's Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, I started working very hard to start realizing more supports and more dollars to invest in our processing facilities. And you know what? Just earlier today, I had Jersey beef. Like, it's interesting how the dairy industry also is recognizing an opportunity to fill a void right here in Ontario. And we've invested we announced in January, around the time of the Dairy Farmers of Ontario AGM, $8 million to enhance efficiencies within processing dairy products, and whether that's on farm and or in a normal manufacturing plant that you might find in the GTHA. That type of investment is currently being made. And then when it comes to specific processing of protein, we know our small abattoirs are just as important as our larger facilities, and we're doing what we can to help them grow as well. And that begs the point. Ontario is participating in a national pilot, where we could entertain what it would take to further encourage interprovincial trade when it comes to meat products. We have a chicken processor in Scarborough, D&D Poultry. They make a beautiful product, and they can't wait to be able to sell. And quite frankly, the demand is there. They're being asked for it, sell their product across Canada. But we need to harmonize between federal and provincial inspection. And once we harmonize and reduce the red tape, hopefully we can make that a reality for processors that have that goal. We have a pilot project on the border of Ontario and Quebec, a pilot project on the border of Ontario and Manitoba. And we're also piloting an initiative to identify processors, abattoirs that are looking to grow, and what it would take to help them realize market potential interprovincially as well. There's so much going on, but it's all in the spirit of supporting our Ontario farmers at the ground level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I know that anybody that's watching this that might recognize me from other venues, they know that I probably shouldn't know that much about agriculture. So a lot of these questions, my father-in-law helped me with, especially this next one that I'm going to ask you about. Yes, his name is Keith Black. He is the director for the grain farmers for Huron County, and he wanted me to ask about being that grain prices are now kind of at or below cost of production. Do you foresee improvements to the Ontario risk management programming?
Well, that sounds like a Keith Black question.
That's
And
100% Keith.
yeah, and now I know where you fit, JC. And anyways, with that said, you know what? It's a really good question. And I can tell you right now that the Premier of Ontario and our entire government is read into the fact that Ontario farmers are second to none. They're embracing technology, and they're embracing research that's driving increased yields so that we can be meeting market demand. And so I'm going to put it right out there. The $150 million on an annual basis that we have for the risk management program in Ontario right now actually does need to grow, because it doesn't go far enough anymore. We're producing so much more. Grain farmers of Ontario have increased their yield overall by 60% since 2019. Apple growers are increasing their yield. Sheep farmers, lamb has increased from 5 million pounds just a few short years ago to 8 million pounds last year. And that's part of our Grow Ontario strategy, is to increase production. So ultimately we can drive an increase in exports year over year. And why? Because at the end of the day, it means more jobs and a thriving agri-food economy. And so to the Keith Blacks of the world that are saying, hey, government, wake up in Ontario. Well, you need to be growing with us. Trust that the conversations are being had, and people appreciate the growth that they're seeing in terms of production, and they understand we need to scale and phase in an increase in risk management to reflect the manner in which Ontario farmers have rose to the occasion and increased their yield as well.
So growth is good. We just have to grow everything with it. Okay.
We need to make sure that everything balances out at the end of the day. You got it.
All right, we've got a few minutes left. I do want to ask you about, this is another important one, especially the last few years. The topic of mental health has come up a lot in society and in farming as well. What's being done with all the money and all the effort and attention that's being put on mental health? What's being done specifically for farmers and mental health on the farm?
Yeah, I'm really proud of what we're doing. And it begs the point that tomorrow I'm going to be in Guelph with a number of people looking to extend and train around how we can support farmers across this province. And it was very, very important to me. And we have a number of initiatives that we're investing in. And it's important to know that we're partnering with the Canadian Mental Health Association, but there's so many partners that are out there. For instance, in Huron County, we're very lucky because Gateway partners with the local Federation of Agriculture to do shed talks, because it's important to be able to talk when times are tough so that you can seek out the supports that you need. But not only that, we are moving forward with a program called the Guardian Network. And this is where people who maybe deliver feed on farm, or they're delivering propane, or they're coming in and just blowing snow, or picking up milk. If we're training people to recognize signs of stress so that they can reach out and offer supports and offer the right context for which people can seek help. Our farmer wellness program is incredibly important and it's the foundation, but the Guardian Network is equally important. And I'm really pleased to share with you that coming down the pipeline, we're going to be talking about how we're extending that support as well on farm. Right now, supports are available for farmer and his or her family. And we're looking at ways to support all people who work on farm. So it's money incredibly well invested. Farmers deserve support. And I'm pleased to say our ministry and our government is delivering in that regard.
Wow, that's incredible, Lisa. It's good to know that farmers specifically do have the light on them for when they need assistance with mental health, because I mean, that's one of the things. Farmers tend to be, they tend to have that tough mentality, and we'll just tough it out, but it's okay to talk about things.
It's okay to say, I need help, or I need to talk. And I think we can all say that, everyone's benefited from having an ear to listen. So we need to make sure that we formalize that and make sure across the province that help is there. And I have to give a shout out. The whole Farmer Wellness Initiative was spurred on and inspired by an amazing lady in Eastern Ontario. And we stand on her shoulders as we deliver these supports around the province.
Well, Lisa, it's been incredible to chat with you. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd love to keep talking with you, but we do have to go. Thank you so much. It's always amazing to chat with your local MPP, especially to learn more about rural affairs. So, Lisa Thompson, MPP for Huron Bruce, thanks so much for joining us today on Politically Speaking.
This is Rogers TV. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Thursdays on City TV.
Police! Come on!
Go! Drop the gun!
Track him down.
NYPD!
We're gonna find your daughter.
You did this to yourself.